Afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to this pre-match press conference of Milan against Dortmund on matchday -1. The Champions League is all about small details and fine margins, but you also need to consider the Champions League as a team competition. You need to play as a team. Ultimately, that's been the most important thing since you've been in charge. Absolutely. Of course, we're playing a very important fixture. You might even say it's a possible turning point, a watershed moment in terms of the group. We know what we did against PSG. We're familiar with the opposition because we've already come up against them. They're a strong side that can cause us problems, but they can also have problems caused for them. So we need to be a switched-on, determined quality side, everything in our power over the course of 95 minutes. Question for Davide. Davide, in May 2021, since we returned to the Champions League, we've been involved in a number of different experiences. You've also learned a bit more in those last two games against PSG, haven't you? Absolutely. Coming up against the best players in the world certainly allows you to acquire a great deal of experience. We had a lot of issues, but coming through that is how you improve, and that's what we want. Hi, Stefano. As a head coach, tomorrow, do you want to see your players with the determination of a great Milan fan like Yannick Sinner? Do you want to see your players show that determination, desire to try and win, the same that Sinner has shown? No, not only the determination of Yannick, but also the mentality, the talent, the fact that he's switched on, the fact he wants to win every single challenge, every point for us. If Yannick Sinner is at the stadium, we'll be delighted and we'll congratulate him for what he's been able to achieve in recent times and what he's achieved with the Italian national team. I'd also like to congratulate my colleague Volandri. I think he's really built a great team, a great group of players, and tomorrow we need to showcase all of our work, everything that has allowed us to develop and grow over the last 4 years, because, of course, we want to produce a big performance, absolutely. Davide, I'd like to ask you the same question. Pioli has given his version as head coach, and you as a player, what would you like to say? The head coach has already said everything. We hope that we can have the same determination and talent of Yannick, but we're sure of that, and now it's up to us to try and harness that and show it on the pitch. A question for Stefano. On Saturday after the game, you said the stadium was a little bit different to how it usually is. So I wanted to ask you if you could go into greater detail onto what you felt there and what do you expect from tomorrow night. Will it be the usual San Siro, especially given you won against Fiorentina? At this moment in time, I'd only like to say one thing. That there was the yellow wall in Dortmund, but Dortmund aren't familiar with our fans at San Siro in the Champions League. But we know what they're all about. They have helped us with their passion, with their enthusiasm to really achieve great things, and I'm sure they'll do likewise again tomorrow night. Good afternoon. Given that Rafael Leão is out, could you play with a 4-2-3-1, possibly? Anything is possible. We always change our shape when in and out of possession. They're a very versatile team in terms of the way they build out from the back. They change shape during the game. Occasionally they have 3 at the back, 4 at the back. So we need to make sure that we're good at figuring out what their shape is so that we know how to press them. And then when we're building up play and when we're attacking, we'll try and come up with some positions that can give us an edge over their defensive shape. Hi, Stefano. Is the PSG game the real source of inspiration, or do you think you need even more than that to beat Borussia Dortmund? That's the game. Absolutely, that is the game in terms of our mental perspective, because it's always about your mentality in games. That's what we need to use as the benchmark, because we started the game well, but we went behind in that match. We fell behind, but we stayed together as a team. We kept our beliefs, our ideas, our strength, our energy right up until the final whistle. So that needs to be our mental approach. It will be a different game because Dortmund don't play like PSG. They attack differently, they defend differently. So every single game has different tactical instructions. But of course, that is what we need from a mental perspective. We showed character, strength, and desire to stay together as a team from the first to last whistle. If we can do that tomorrow, as we did against PSG, we'll have a good chance of winning. Gazzetta dello Sport. A question for each of you. I wanted to ask you, Stefano, about Samuel Chukwueze, who will undoubtedly start tomorrow night once again. He's not performing a great deal. I wanted to wonder what the best way is to get the best out of him. Tighter, wider, more counter-attacks, closer to a player with a different skill set like Giroud as opposed to Jovic. I was pleased with Chukwueze's performance on Saturday against Fiorentina. He worked a great deal for the team. He was often in the positions where we want him to be. He had some opportunities, above all with some crosses. He had a slightly trickier start to others because he'd had an injury which hampered his adaptation, not only physically, but in terms of also getting to grips with the team on the pitch. He has often worked very wide. He operated a little bit more narrow the other day, and I think he'll get on the ball a bit more. He'll be more a part of the action if he's a bit narrow, a bit more central. But it depends on our shape, and it also depends on how he links up with Davide Calabria, because, of course, we want to attack with two players. So one will be wide, one will be narrow, and which one it is, it doesn't matter too much. David, I wanted to ask you on your predictions for what sort of game we'll see tomorrow. Dortmund are like Milan. They attack in transitions, counter-attacks. Do you think it'll be a lot of 5v5s, 4v4s, or do you think it'll be a tighter fixture, as we have occasionally seen? No, I expected the first situation that you mentioned there. I think it will be challenges all over the pitch, will go toe-to-toe. They also attack a great deal. They like to counter. So I expect a high-tempo, high-octane match, as it always is in the Champions League. You said that tomorrow could be a turning point for the Champions League. So I wanted to ask you, given that it's essentially a knockout match, essentially in terms of making it through to the knockout stage, I know that we're only at the end of November, but how much will this weigh heavily on the overall assessment of Milan's season as a whole? Of course, we had a very clear target at the start of the season. We wanted to be competitive both domestically and in the Champions League. It's very important to make it through to the Champions League knockout stages, and it's what we'll try to do. Good afternoon. I wanted to ask you, in terms of preparation for this match, what have you made of the team in terms of their mindset? Often you say they're very relaxed. How important was that Fiorentina victory? And the PSG performance saw a great display from Ruben Loftus-Cheek. How much fitter is he compared with the recent weeks? Because he's obviously had flu recently. The team are prepared, they are focused, the team know how important tomorrow night's game will be. The team has approached work over the last few days with this mindset, with this idea, but with our usual calm when it comes to preparing important matches such as these. I think that's the best possible solution. Rubes was due to play a portion of the game on Saturday to try and improve his fitness levels, and I think he's in good shape. He can't be at 100%, but he wasn't even before that PSG game. So there's a good chance that he might actually be fit and firing. Good afternoon, Stefano. A question for you. Theo Hernandez has been criticised recently for some underwhelming displays, but I've looked at his numbers. He's come up with 3 assists and a goal. He's also grabbing the team by the scruff of the neck. What have you made of him? And given the fact there's no Rafael Leao on that side, he has different movement with Christian Pulisic. Maybe he drives towards the byline a bit more. Do you think Theo Hernandez could produce another big Champions League performance like last season? Because of the ability that he has, Theo Hernandez can always produce big performances. The fact that he's been criticised happens to everyone, and it's only natural when Milan go 4 matches without winning and 50 days without victory in Serie A. He produced a great performance against Fiorentina. What you said tactically, it is difficult to corroborate because Theo Hernandez won a penalty by coming in field. He played a through ball to Luka Jovic by coming in field. But of course, we want to try and cause problems for the opposition. But our players are so intelligent, they're so good that they can play a bit wider, a bit narrower, but they can look at each other and ultimately link up well. A question for Davide. Against Paris Saint-Germain and against Lecce, Milan conceded a very similar goal from a corner, and against Fiorentina, had there not been the save from Mike Maignan, Milan would have conceded another similar goal. Have you understood what the problem is from corners? Have you worked upon it? Yes, we've approached it over the last few days. We've tried to sort out this situation where I think we could have done better. A question for Davide. Against Fiorentina, you maybe made some mistakes in terms of your final ball. How are you trying to improve on that score? By working on it, analyzing things with the help of video, I realized that I made a mistake with the pass that I should have done better. I took a shot when I would have been better off passing in that instance. But we're top-level footballers, and you simply need to grasp what the mistake is. It's only natural you make mistakes. It's important to understand what it is and then try and do better on the pitch. A question for the gaffer. Good afternoon. What do you want to see from your lads tomorrow evening? What do you expect from your players, and what do you not want to see above all against Dortmund? I want to see a team that's able to harness absolutely everything from their skill set on the pitch, the way that we play, everything we've prepared. I've got a great deal of faith in my players, so I really believe that they won't disappoint me. I want to see absolutely everything they have. I like to think positively. If you say, what don't you want to see? What don't you want to see? No, I want to see everything. Good afternoon, Stefano. I'm going to start with a premise. Everything you do in terms of work is to try and get a win, but I saw that Milan were trying to win the game against Fiorentina as opposed to anything else. You were more focused on exclusively getting maximum points. In certain circumstances, you're not better off doing that, being a little more humble from a footballing perspective, as opposed to thinking all the time you need to play an attacking brand of football. You know, you dug deep, you played your game. Is it not occasionally better to do that? We always try and play to win in absolute terms, and over the last few years I think the team has shown that they have an idea in terms of how they want to try and win matches. But I do agree that there are certain periods of a league season, and that was a time in which it was the right approach to the match, and we'll see as to whether the same thing comes to pass tomorrow night. Against PSG, it's not as if we were necessarily pressing them in their own box. I don't think the difference is where you go and press them, how high up the pitch you close them down. I think it's in terms of how well you're able to defend. Whether you're high or low, it doesn't matter. It has to be your mental approach. You need to be a team that doesn't want to concede a goal. And I don't believe in good or bad luck in football. We didn't concede against Lecce, Napoli, Udinese or Juventus because we were unlucky. We conceded goals because we had shortcomings in certain areas. And it's not that we didn't concede a goal against Fiorentina because we were lucky. It's because in terms of communication, spirit and hard work, we were better than the opposition. Are there no German colleagues here? Just checking that. Pelegatti. I'll replace the German colleagues. A question for Stefano Pioli and one for Davide Calabria as well. Salt in the soup is what they say in Germany. It's an idiom. In terms of individuals or as a team, what needs to be the salt in the rossoneri soup? No, we need to show that energy, that desire to overcome a very difficult hurdle. Those feelings that we're familiar with, that are part of who we are, that the fans have allowed us to experience as well. Going that extra mile, that's what we need in order to produce a top-class performance. I hope that Calabria is the salt in the soup and he can score a goal in the Champions League. What have you retained in terms of the energy from the last weekend? Francesco Camarda brought some pastries into the training ground. Typically, when you score a goal, you bring in pizzette. So, Sinner, Camarda, these guys who had big triumphs over the weekend, their families that helped you as well, of course. The excitement of this weekend. Talk to us about all of that. Occasionally, we are made out to be superheroes, but some of us are 15-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-olds, so we really are young guys, and we come from very humble, ordinary families, so some people have come from slightly harder backgrounds. But no one is left out on that score. We retain the joy of playing football for a living. It is a profession. We put a lot of hard work, desire and determination in, but we are lucky enough to play football, and we try and give joy to our parents who have made a lot of sacrifices for us, and try and really reap what we've sown over the years, and also entertain the fans. Thank you very much, everyone.